Hello, welcome to another video in Plant and Cloud Essentials video series. In this video, we are going to see how Plant and Cloud helps you create a new Java REST API connected to a Postgres database without writing a single line of code. So our goal is to create a REST API which is connected to a database. And we are going to accomplish that by following these steps. Set up a Postgres database, set up code project and microservice, wait for microservice deployment, and then finally verify that the REST API endpoints work. So the first step is to set up a new Postgres database. And to do that, we are going to go back to the Plant and Cloud console. We are on the console app, and first you would click on, make sure the context has the product chosen. Right now we are working on web shop for Cookie Store LLC company, and clicking on Plant and Cloud icon should show you the quick access dashboard. And then from the dash access options available, click on Postgres clusters. Right now there are no Postgres clusters for this product, so we are going to get started with creating one. First, choose the environment in which we want to create the Postgres cluster, and then you can give a name for the cluster. The default there is main, or you can type your own, and then choose an endpoint domain. So this is the DNS domain on which the Postgres cluster that is created will be accessible. We have already added a DNS domain that is owned by Cookie Store LLC company, which is cookiestore.com, pc-cookie-store. That is what I'm going to choose. And for only the DNS domains for which TLS has been enabled, only those endpoints, standard endpoints, can be chosen. You can choose memory and CPU cores along with storage disk for your Postgres cluster, and then click create. Once the Postgres cluster is created on Plant and Console app, it would take a minute or so for the cluster to be in running state. And when the cluster is ready, we would see the host name populated on the details page. It took us probably a minute for the host name to appear, and going to check the details, this new Postgres cluster got created in this Kubernetes namespace. And looking at the pods, we see that one Postgres pod is in running state. Now that we have created the Postgres cluster, we also want to create a new product secret, which we are going to inject as an environment variable while creating the microservice. So I copied this secret name. Now I'm going to go back and create a product secret. Right now there are no product secrets for this product, and I'm going to give it a name called db-hostname. Sorry, this is db. I'm going to give it a name called db password, and I click create. Note that we are not providing the value of the secret right now, because the value of the secret can be updated after creating the secret. So I go create the secret, and within like a few seconds after creating the secret gets created on the backing secrets manager provider. In this case, because the product environment itself is running on Plant and provided GCP cloud account, the secret gets created on Google Secrets Manager, and the default value is set to placeholder. So when we click on view password, we are essentially, Plant and Cloud retrieves the value from the secret created on Google Secrets Manager, and the default value, as I mentioned, is placeholder. And we want to update the value to the Postgres database password. So I can copy paste the value that I've copied earlier and I click update. Right now the value got updated on Google Cloud Secrets Manager. So once you update, if you click on view secret value, again we see that the value on the Google Cloud Secrets Manager has been updated. Now that we have created a Postgres database and also created a product secret, the next step for us is to deploy the microservice. And to deploy a microservice, the first step is to create a new project. But while creating so, we are going to use a template that helps us quickly bootstrap a Java Spring Boot REST API microservice with Postgres configuration. Once the code project is created, we are going to create a microservice to link the code project to set up a deployment target to the product environment. Also attach the machine account to code project so that the Magic Pipeline can authenticate itself to Plantain Cloud APIs in order to run build or deployment jobs. Once the Magic Pipeline is added to the, and then after adding the machine account, we are going to add Magic Pipeline. As soon as the Magic Pipeline is added, GitHub will automatically kick off an actions job. We will wait for the workflow to complete and then finally check the details of the microservice deployment on console. Let's go back to the console and get started with creating the code project. So I'm going to create a new code project and I'm going to call this code project as Cookie Store API. I'm going to use Java Postgres as the template. This template would require us to provide a few variables values. And here we are going to choose the values by opening the console app in another window, and we can grab the values from the details of Postgres cluster. One important thing to notice while creating a code project that connects to a Postgres database is to use the Kubernetes DNS instead of a normal DNS, because both the microservice and the Postgres databases are running on the same Kubernetes cluster. It is important to choose the kube DNS instead of normal external DNS. I copy this value and I'm going to provide the value for DB host as that value. The DB name should be default to Postgres because we have not created any custom databases. The default database remains to be Postgres. Now the value for the DB password Plantain Cloud secret is going to be the ID of the secret that we have created earlier. So copy the ID of the secret and then provide that value here. The remaining values can be left to defaults and you can click on creating the project. Once the code project is created on GitHub, you can check it out by clicking on view repository, and we see that a new code project has been bootstrapped. This new code project essentially has a bunch of API endpoints from a template to do API, and we are eventually going to modify this code to build out our cookie store APIs. And then we are going to attach the machine account to make it ready for running the Magic Pipeline or CI/CD pipeline. The machine account has been added successfully. Now we are going to add Magic Pipeline to this project. Now after looking at the confirmation on the console that Magic Pipeline has been added, we are going to refresh the page and we see that Magic Pipeline has been added to the GitHub project. And as soon as the Magic Pipeline is added, we see that the project is being built. But right now there is only a few steps. There is no deploy step because we have not linked a microservice to this yet. So we are going to proceed and create a new microservice, and Instead of creating it from scratch, I can create a clone of this microservice. So I'm going to rename it, and this is going to be our cookie store API. And then the core project would be cookie store API, and we want to deploy it to dev environment and leave all other options to defaults. Now we are able to create a new microservice. In order for the pipeline to update the pipeline to be able to add a deploy step, we are going to click on add or update, and go back to the repository, and we see that magic pipeline has been updated. And if you look at the commits made by Plantain Cloud, you would see that 2 new steps have been added, which are to deploy the microservice. So let's go check out what's happening in the actions. We see that the build step has been completed, and as soon as the build step is completed, GitHub will kick off a deployment job. We'll wait for the deployment to succeed. Now that the deployment has been successfully completed on GitHub, let's go to console app and check the details of the deployment that was just completed. So there are 2 deployments that have happened. We can look at the details, and the details would show us the number of replicas or the container port and service port, along with the details of the container image that has been used. And we'll also see the DB host name, and also all the environment variables that have been configured. And you'll also see the list of secrets that have been injected into the microservice, and the value of the secrets can also be viewed from console app. And these are the resource allocations for this particular deployment. We can also stream logs for this microservice from the console app. We can click on stream logs. We can look at the logs that flyway migrations have also been executed, meaning the tables required for the API to work have been automatically created, which are part of the template itself. Now that the service is up and running, let's go and check the list of to-dos, or see the API endpoint if it is working. The first part of the endpoint would be the name of the microservice, name of the Git branch, name of the environment, and followed by the endpoint domain that we have added to the environment itself. So we can list to-dos, and we see that the list of to-dos from the database are being retrieved. We are going to continue building on top of this by adding a Next.js app to be able to perform all other operations, be able to add more to-do items and update them or delete these to-do items. I hope this video helped you understand how to quickly create a new Java REST API with a Postgres database connected to it. Thank you.